All right, AJ, I think it's that time. Do you want to get into Ahsoka and review episode 3?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, guys, full spoilers. We're going to go in depth on this bad boy. I will say just off the bat, I still am enjoying this
Yeah.
series. Probably still in the kind of that 7 to 10 range. I'm liking it. So episode 3 is entitled Time to Fly. We open with Hu Yang training Sabine in some basic lightsaber fighting techniques. Ahsoka suggests Hu Yang teach her the Zatoichi technique, but he says she's not ready for that technique. Do you think that's ever something they'll call back in this show, or if it was just complete throwaway?
She'll be ready for it at some point, though she'll need it at the end. Use the Zatoichi technique. I'm not ready.
You can do it. Oh, Zatoichi, you saved the day.
Good old Zatoichi.
Ahsoka says that Sabine's fighting skills won't be enough, and that she needs to open her mind to the Force, which takes a deeper commitment. So Ahsoka has Sabine cover her eyes with a visor, and has her kind of try to sense her position and intent as she moves around her and hits her with the stick and whatnot.
Yeah.
The whole that seems to be a whole thing in Star Wars with the visor, because even Luke had to put the visor on and deflect little laser beams with the saber and all that. So now we get a scene with Hera where she has a meeting with Mon Mothma and the other senators of the New Republic, and tells her about what happened on Corellia in the last episode with all the Imperial sympathizers that worked for Morgan Elsbeth. One of the senators says that group were outliers, and that there are many former Imperials in the New Republic government who have taken an oath of loyalty. And I think Hera rightfully points out that, that really means nothing, and that she's very dubious of oh yeah. That's basically like a Nazi taking an oath that, I promise to be good. You know?
Exactly.
So it's of course the people should be more dubious of, former Imperials.
Yeah. It definitely seems like the Senate's got its own, dubious nature to it also.
You think that?
I think somebody on there is, disloyal for sure.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they don't mention if, any of them are former Imperials. Although, wouldn't that be kind of, even if you're okay, we're going to assume, some of those people, were just Nazis following orders. Maybe they're not totally bad people, but they kind of got, roped into doing things they shouldn't or whatever. And we're going to be somewhat accepting of them and give them a second chance as long as they take an oath or whatever. It seems even a government like that would still be maybe dubious of putting them in really high ranking government positions,
Yeah.
But Hera tells Mon Mothma about Thrawn and how she'd like to put a party together to investigate the Denob system. But then one of the other senators, I forget his name, accuses her of trying to waste resources in order to try to find Ezra. So he's like, this is personal. You're trying to find Ezra. But, my thing is she has this intelligence. Would it really harm them to be okay, you can take a very small, group of men out or something, just rather than ignore it completely. So most of the senators agree with that guy and don't.
I gotta say, it didn't make any sense to me. Like you just said, to not even try to suss out what could be happening. Just check it out.
Yeah, they get actionable intelligence.
Yeah,
and you don't have to commit an insane amount of resources to it.
Yeah.
But you should. It's enough that you should send at least a small squadron.
You're looking at potential. The leader of the other faction coming back.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the other senators agree with that one guy and don't think they need to worry about the Empire coming back because they have no centralized command. But Hera points out Thrawn would change that. He would be a centralized command and get others to follow him. Mon Mothma says she will discuss the matter with the other senators in private, but you get the sense that meeting did not go well and probably will not lead to them helping. We are introduced to Hera's son, Jason, who says he wants to be a Jedi. AJ, I know you didn't watch Rebels, but another major character in Rebels is this guy named Kanan Jarrus, who is a Jedi, and he was him and Hera were a couple, so he's the son of them. Now I'm not completely sure because I've never read any of the like because you know how like when Disney bought Star Wars, a lot of the stuff in their like expanded universe kind of like isn't official canon anymore, and like they kind of pick and choose like certain things from that, like Thrawn was a part of that, but other stuff they choose to ignore. Now I believe Han Solo and Leia in that canon had like twins.
Okay.
And I think their names were like Jason and something. I might be wrong about that. I might be totally wrong. I'm not like super in depth with Star Wars, but they of course didn't end up going that route because in like the newer trilogy they just had the one kid, which was Kylo Ren, you know.
Okay.
So Ahsoka tells Sabine that she did a good job today in her training. But Sabine is still dismayed that she can't use the Force. Ahsoka says the Force is in everyone, and then although I will quote, talent is a factor, it really takes patience and discipline to master it. And I wrote that because really, like we discussed last time, like the whole like we know whether people like it or not, the whole midi-chlorian thing exists. So like. She says talent, but does it really mean talent, or does it mean like something biological that she would have no control over?
Yeah, I'd like to see them reconcile the metachlorian thing with the with what she's saying.
With like anybody can possibly can the
maybe there's a certain level of metachlorians in like anybody, but then like having more will make you even more talented. I guess I don't know.
I guess you could say something like that. Yeah, that would work. Ahsoka then moves a like small coffee cup and tells Sabine to start small and see if she can do that. Ahsoka has a meeting with Hu Yang. He asks how the training is going. Ahsoka says that Sabine is struggling, but that Hu Yang shouldn't have told her what he did before, where he basically mentioned that like. She's the least force sensitive like person he's ever seen try to like become a Jedi or take the training. Hu Yang says it's true and that the Jedi Academy would have never accepted her. And he also mentions that very few Mandalorians have ever become Jedi. Ahsoka says she doesn't need her to be a Jedi. She just needs her to be herself. Sabine tries and fails to move the cup until she is interrupted by Ahsoka, who has Hera on the line. I guess I don't know if you'd say the phone. I don't know what they say in Star Wars. The holographic line. So Hera tells them about how she can't join them because the Senate didn't approve the mission.
I can't come, guys.
Yeah. And she is cut off. Now, do you think Hera will... do the thing where like she sneaks out and helps anyway?
Yeah, she'll do something like that.
I'm guessing something like that happens. But then their communication is cut off when they enter the Denab system. Apparently all communications are getting jammed. Hu Yang's scan shows a ship on the other side of the planet. I imagine from the episode before, this planet is that Cetos planet.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And he says as well as that there's something large and unknown on the other side of the planet. So they kind of start flying towards that. But then suddenly 6 fighters jets led by Shin Hati and Merrick come out of nowhere and attack them. So Sabine gets in the tail gun. And I wrote, Sabine misses a lot.
Yeah.
But eventually takes out 3 of them. I remember like she just kept like missing. And then I think eventually she like told Ahsoka to do like some sort of like aerial move that got her in line.
I was like, you got to be purposely trying to miss at that point. Like,
I mean,
really good at missing.
I mean, if her strength isn't like the Jedi stuff yet, it should at least be that kind of stuff, right?
She's supposed to be a technical person.
So Ahsoka and Hu Yang get a glimpse of this Eye of Sion that they're building. As they approach the ring, Morgan tells Shin to stay clear and that she'll deal with them. And you definitely get the sense that there's tension between Morgan and Shin.
Yeah.
Like they don't get along. So Morgan tells her droids to prepare the turbo lasers. And a part of me is like, couldn't they come up with a cooler name than turbo lasers?
Yeah, turbo laser.
That seems a bit basic. I
Sounds
don't
like
know.
something like they'd be selling in a commercial. Turbo laser.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, that's like in the 80s or 90s. You would see like a toys,
Yeah.
kids' toys. Buy the laser or turbo lasers. Anyway, Ahsoka tries to dodge the lasers while Hu Yang completes a scan of the ring. As soon as Hu Yang's scan is complete, they get hit, and Hu Yang is powered down, as well as the ship. So Sabine hurries to get the ship back in order, and Shin tells Morgan, again, they don't get along. She's like, I'll finish them off since you can't, or whatever. And I think basically, like, it's weird because I think they're, like, so close now to the inside of the ring that, like, maybe Morgan can't get her turbo lasers like aimed at him properly.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, but Shin's like, I'll take care of it. So this, I don't know if this was a great idea, but Ahsoka goes outside while Sabine tries to get the ship running. Ahsoka goes outside in a space suit with her lightsaber and basically tries to deflect the shots. Now, one thing, I thought it was funny that, she has a spacesuit that fits her, like, head tentacles, which I guess she would need, but it just is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how hard would it be to get that thing on? Like, she gets it on fast. But I'm like, it seems like getting, like, her tendrils to line up and get that thing in there would be tricky to me.
I just thought the whole idea of going out there to deflect was, look, it was all you had to, it was the only idea she had. She couldn't do anything else, but if I'm the bad guys, I would aim at the ship that she's standing on rather than her.
That's just what I was thinking. I was like, if I was the bad guys, because they do that. They aim mostly at her, and she deflects them away. I'm like, okay, she's on that side of the ship. Oh, I'll just blow up the other side of the ship,
It's so easy. She's dead meat.
So the bad guys definitely aren't the smartest here.
No.
She does, and also, like, they fly close enough that she's able to, like, cut one in half with her lightsaber. I'm like, my dude, that's a bad idea too. Like, you're shooting, like, stay your distance. It's a distance weapon. So Sabine gets the ship running again and gets Ahsoka back on board. She, like, turns the ship perfectly and gets her, like, in the through there. So now the chase is on. And they end up getting chased around like these large space whales called purgils. Now, AJ, do you remember last episode when we were talking? I talked about that last episode of Rebels and how Thrawn and Ezra were taken away by the big like space whales that can actually go like in hyperspace speed.
Yeah.
So these are those creatures. So yeah, they're flying around these guys, and there's also a bunch of fog. So eventually Sabine is able to lose them. Hu Yang briefly wakes back up as they land on the planet, which is Cetos. They power down, and they power down Hu Yang because they want to hide from the bad guys. So they're like, even though he just woke up, she's like, oh, I got to power you down so they can't scan you. And they power down the ship in the forest to hide from Shin and Merrick, who fly overhead. Sabine says she hasn't seen the space whale since that day Ezra disappeared. They turn Hu Yang back on, and he says the hyperspace ring is still being constructed. So, like, they still have a chance to stop it. But the last drive is being put into place. Hu Yang says the ring would be capable of jumping completely to another galaxy, and that the Jedi have like writings or something where they used to be able to do this by using lanes shared by the Purgle. Now, I have a question, which is like, evolution, usually creatures like evolve out of like need or necessity, and I'm like, what necessitates these Purgles to evolve to the point where they need to travel at the faster than the speed of light and have the ability to go to entirely different galaxies?
Yeah, and usually evolution happens like step by step.
Yeah, I mean, which I mean, time is infinite, I guess, and this did happen in a galaxy far, far away, a long time ago, and whatever. But still, yeah, I mean, even over eons, like, part of me is like, why would they have needed to develop this ability?
I don't understand either. How does nature lead to that?
I think more than anything, someone was like, you know what looks cool? Space whales. Yeah. And they're like, we'll figure out a way.
Everybody's got their version. Marvel's got their version of space whales too, kind of like with the Chitauri.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, the Chitauri ride those that are basically space whales. You're right. Mm. It's become a thing now. Space whales. I wonder if DC has a version of space whales. They probably do, to be honest. Probably. I mean, I guess with because we mentioned last time, they can already travel in hyperspeed. Like, why would they need a ring that puts all these together? I guess I guess if you're saying they just needed to travel such a long, more of a distance, to a whole different galaxy, so maybe they need that extra speed.
So they don't have intergalactic space travel. They just have within the galaxy.
I mean, I'm presuming they could travel outside their own galaxy. It would just, even traveling at whatever speeds they can on one hyperdrive, it would take so long or something. But with this thing, they can just the only thing is if you use this thing to travel to a whole nother galaxy, you better hope it doesn't break down, because you're for sure going to be stranded.
For sure, yeah. Also, how come the bad guys are always so cutting edge with technology? They're like, okay, we found this. Okay, we just need 5 hyperdrives and we'll get this going to wherever we need to go. How come there's no 20 years of R&D going into that?
That is kind of true, because I guess the Empire had their top scientists or something, but it's true. It does seem like this is something they would have had to come up with on their own.
Yeah.
And it's you're right. I mean, there are a lot of questions that I'm wondering if this show will answer in a satisfying way, because it's you figure Ezra and Thrawn, okay, they were taken by the Purgles to this very distant galaxy. Yeah. And it's somehow a map to Thrawn was created and, like I said, placed in that temple where Ahsoka got it. I mean, it almost seems like Ezra would have had to be able to tap into that thing where he can somehow go to a temple and travel an insane distance and set this all up. I don't know. Also, I don't know how many episodes this season is, but do you think we're only going to find Thrawn and Ezra at the very end of the series, or do you think we find them midway and see what happened?
I think at the very end.
You think they'll stretch it out to the very end?
Yeah.
I do think if they do that, it's likely then they'll do another season of this show.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, with some of these Star Wars shows, I don't know if the idea is to make all of them multiple series, or if some of them are just going to be more like mini-series. Because I think they already announced, initially, the plan for Andor was just to do a 2-season thing. Okay. And so, I'm not... And it's with the Marvel shows, too, it seems like some of those are one-and-dones, and some of them are more than one, like Loki.
Yeah.
So... But, okay. So, yeah, the Purgle are a bit of a mystery to me, but... Then it ends with Balin telling his men basically to hunt down Ahsoka and Sabine in the forest. So yeah, that was episode 3. Anything else you can think of that you found interesting in that episode? Or where you think things might go next episode?
I've seen other. What do you think about this theory? I've heard other shows talk about how they think, what's her name? Her little apprentice.
Oh, Merrick. The masked one or Shin?
The good one, the good apprentice, who's working for Ahsoka. What's her name?
Oh, Sabine.
Sabine, yeah. Some people are saying that she's going to turn evil, go to the dark side.
You know, I feel like anytime like there's a Star Wars property, somebody's like, oh, either this good person will turn to the dark side or this bad person will be redeemed in some way, you know. I don't think that.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like they couldn't, but
I think there's just as good a chance of that bad person being redeemed.
I feel like with you know, especially with Rebels and people, especially kids, had 4 seasons of a show to really like fall in love with those characters, and they're like invested in Sabine. Like I don't really feel like they're going to turn her to the dark side, and I don't get that vibe at all, anyways. Yet, at least. The thing I think would be more likely is for either, what's his name, Balin or Shin to take more of like a redeemed thing where we find out they're a little bit better. The only other theories I've heard is because that Merrick person has a mask. They're like, you know, oh, could that be Ezra, or could that be another, you know, person in the Star Wars universe? You know,
I don't know if that would be a good reveal. Like, he's supposed to be the big good guy, you know, the hero, and now you're going to turn him into like a little scrub of villain.
Well, I think people who theorize that would be more like, you know, he's pretending to be bad, but actually working for the good guys. But for some reason, I mean, I don't know. I think things would maybe get too convoluted if that turns out to be the case.
Yeah.
But my thing with like certain reveals is like, if they're like, oh, it was somebody from one of the cartoons, season 2, episode 8, I'm gonna be like, I don't remember.
Yeah,
so if they go, if that is like, and it might just be like an underling, and it doesn't even matter who's under the mask. Mm-hmm. But if they do depending on what the reveal is, if I'll probably be like, okay, I'll take your word for it. I don't really know that person, though I can't remember. You know.
Right.
That is one thing. If your universe is too expansive with too many characters, sometimes a reveal like that will be like, oh, 1% of the people understood that.
Yeah.
The rest of us, you got to kind of explain it. But I'm just, I'm kind of like you were. Like, I want to see Thrawn already because they're like building him up. But I do kind of think they're going to space this thing out, and we won't really get to him.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Or Ezra until like pretty late in the run.
Yeah.
Maybe either second to last or last episode.
There's some like corny stuff in these episodes, like that is just Star Wars-ish, you know, that you just have to put up with. Like, you know, when they're sitting in a space station or like a space craft or whatever, it just seems like such a tin can, you know, like it just seems so like green screen, like they're just sitting there in a green screen environment. You just know it's fake, but it's like, you know, Star Wars, you just have to accept it.
Oh, I didn't push up too much against that, but you feel those scenes maybe looked like too obvious, like sets or something.
Yeah.
It's, I will say, like, I mean, I assume they do use, you know, green screen and stuff, but like, at least none of it's as obvious as, that was one problem with the prequels, is like, I think the green screen technology or whatever they used was much newer then.
Okay.
And so, like, if you watch those movies, you can especially tell, like, everything looks fake.
Right.
And so it doesn't help those movies. I feel like these later ones, like, use like a mix of practical and green screen and look a little bit better in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, have practical movies always been more expensive than green screen?
Well, I think green screen backgrounds and stuff by itself does save money. Mm-hmm. But now where they're actually doing a lot of like really intricate computer generated effects with effects houses and stuff, I think some of those probably are getting to the point where they're more expensive than a lot of practical things, you know.
Okay.
And so I do wonder about that kind of stuff. I mean, some of these superhero movies we watch too, I'm like, if they use too many effects, sometimes it does get to the point where you feel like you're just watching a cartoon, even though you're watching, a live action thing. To the point where I'm like, maybe they could mix in more practical. Like, they're always going to have a mix of both, I think. Mm. But I remember we had that complaint when we watched Quantumania, where it's like, nothing here feels real.
Yeah.
Like, it all feels fake and green screened. And
it takes you out of the movie so much.
Yeah, that movie especially, like, and then I've seen others that I'm like, well, I know, like, they are have to be using some of that stuff here, but it feels like there's at least enough of a mix where it doesn't feel weird. Yeah. And it feels like there's still something a little bit you can hold on to.
Right.
Whereas, I remember watching Quantumania, and especially all those scenes that actually take place on the quantum realm.
Yeah.
And you're just like, boy, this all just feels fake. None of it...
Don't know up from down.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, overall, still enjoying Ahsoka. Looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I really have any predictions for the next episode. It's hard to...
Yeah, I don't know where it's going right now. I expect a showdown between Ahsoka and Balon, because she's headed towards him, right?
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to track them down. Mm-hmm. I do feel like we will get a scene where Hera tries to help in some way, whether that's her going by herself or her, taking a few people that are loyal to her.
Yeah. Maybe she gets caught in some crossfire or something.
To me, the thing I think I'm most interested in is just how... I think maybe Ezra and Thrawn actually had to work together to get that map to him. Because it seems to me like they're basically stranded on an island, and they know they have to survive, get off eventually, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, it sounds to me like Ezra was willing to make the sacrifice just so Thrawn doesn't survive. So, I mean, instead of helping him survive, I would think he'd rather just be like, no, let's just die here. Sacrifice himself.
One thing I notice about Star Wars is, like, main characters very seldomly die.
Okay.
It just seems that way. Or, like, so it's like, I don't know if we'll get any, like, major deaths in this series.
I feel like those stormtrooper guns could be a lot more effective if they could just hold the button instead of having to push it and like it fires a new laser. Yeah. They just hold that button and move the gun
like a machine gun.
Yeah,
thing?
They'd be solid. They'd be unstoppable then.
Stormtroopers are famously the worst shots in all of fiction.
Yeah.
Pew, pew, pew. We hit nobody.
They gotta get like yelled at every time they come back to their headquarters. Like, how do you not fucking hit anything every time?
Actually, maybe they are like Nazis, but maybe they are just like, we don't really want to be doing this. So we're gonna shoot, but we're gonna miss like all the time. We're following orders, but we're just really poor shots.
Actually, in World War II, or maybe it was like Korean War or something, like they figured out that soldiers, the new ones, when you send them out to fight, they purposely fire above the enemy's head, like just a little bit above, so they don't actually hit anybody. And it's just like a normal reaction. Like you actually don't want to kill anybody, so you just pull up a little bit.
That is interesting. Like, yeah, I mean, how hard, like, if you're, like, drafted into war, like, that's got to be insanely tough anyway, but just actually, like, get in the headspace where you're actually willing to kill somebody.
For you and me, that's tough. For some people, that's like a dream come true.
It would maybe be a little easier if you were literally in the fight against the Nazis.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah, I can recognize this as, like, a real evil that needs to be stopped.
Black and white.
Yeah. But, like, something like Vietnam or, where you're like, yeah, we probably shouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
Then I could definitely, see stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd just start a new life right there. All right, so I live here now, and this is my life.
You do wonder how many people in war just do go AWOL.
Yeah.
I would have to think about it. Be like, I'm just going to go off in the other direction from where the fighting is, hope I can land somewhere safe.
Yeah.
And like, I'll just hide out and hopefully things will eventually end.
Yeah, for sure. If I got drafted into a war that I thought was unjust, I would just try to make my way into my own little space somewhere.
I would totally find my way into Canada or whatever.
Some bordering country that's not involved at all.
A lot of people did that, and like, I don't blame them at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I don't know how we got to Ahsoka to draft dodging, but we managed somehow. But anyway, guys, in conclusion, if you will, please subscribe to us both on the YouTube channel and in audio form on your podcast service of choice. Leave us thumbs up, positive reviews, and just for me, please go to Amazon and buy Becker, the complete series on DVD. And maybe start one of those change.org petitions. I don't think those actually do anything, but why not? We want to get Becker on streaming. And also, let's get that either Blu-ray or 4K conversion. Sure.
Yeah.
And also, if there's like some insanely like rich billionaire out there that just wants to hire all of the actors, including Ted Danson, to start up a reboot, I'm open for that as well.
Isn't he doing a show right now, Ted Danson?
I mean, he works a lot. It wouldn't surprise me. Did you ever watch The Good Place?
Yeah.
That's a great show.
Yeah. Really good show, yeah.
He did a couple of guest spots on The Orville as well as like one of the upper like I don't know.
Federation people.
Yeah. I like Ted Danson.
Yeah, he's a
great.
likable person. Yeah.
I wonder how old he is though. He's got to be up there.
He's got to be 70s.
Yeah, he's got to be at least in his 70s.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think after that we'll wrap things up. AJ, have you signed back up for Twitter yet?
I don't know if I can. Don't you need like your social security and everything to sign up now?
By now you might. They haven't asked me for it yet. Man, I don't even know if I want to plug it. Yeah, I guess. You can find me on Twitter at Zach Jones Live, ZachJonesLive. But that's going to do it for all of our shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.
Take care.